The opening prayer is in the blue book, I believe.
Om Bhadrang Karne Vishrunyama Devaha Bhadrang Pashe Makshaviryatraya Sthirairangai Stuštuvang Shastanubihi Vase Made Bahitam Jalayu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May we, O gods, hear what is auspicious with our ears. O ye who are worthy of worship, may we see with our eyes what is auspicious. May we enjoy the life allotted to us by the gods, offering praise with our bodies strong of limbs. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto all. Let us all pray together. We offer our salutations to the all-loving being who endows all beings with consciousness. We meditate on the Lord, who is the origin of the universe. Lord, thou art in all, thou art all, thou assumest all forms, thou art the origin and goal of all, thou art the self of all, thou art existence, knowledge and bliss. Salutations unto thee. May the world be peaceful, may the wicked become gentle, may all creatures think of mutual welfare, may their minds be occupied with what is spiritual and abiding. May our hearts be immersed in selfless love for the Lord. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Good evening, friends. Swami Yogatmanand is traveling. He'll be back tomorrow. So we have a wonderful speaker here, guest speaker, Dr. Sudhir Railkar. He has come from New Jersey. He just drove here about a couple of hours back and has an interesting topic. Sudhir Railkar is a mechanical engineer by profession and has worked in the academic and private sector for the last 30 years. But he is here today being a devotee and a student of Vedanta and an artist at heart. Sudhir finished BE in Mechanical Engineering from University of Bombay and Master of Science MS from Louisiana State University and his PhD from University of Minnesota. His PhD research was funded by NASA and was focused on thermal protection tiles for the space shuttle. He worked as a research professor at Stevens Institute of Technology, where he did teaching and collaborative research with private industries and US Navy and US Army in designing extrusion machinery. Later years, he worked with the largest building materials company, where his research work led to several new and innovative products. He has authored more than 100 research papers and holds 80 US patents. He loves mathematics, solid geometry, and his application in art, astronomy, architecture, tessellations. I suppose Dr. Railkar will explain what tessellation is. And nature. Sudhir's hobbies and interests include oil and watercolor paint sketching and making paper models of historic buildings. Since 1997, he has been associated with the Vivekananda Vidyapit, Wayne, New Jersey, where he was exposed to the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother and Swami Vivekananda. For many years, he has been closely interacting with several Swamis of the Ramakrishna order and has been attending their lectures and classes on scriptures and Vedanta. Presently, he is translating Abhangs of Saint Tukaram Maharaj, a Marathi saint's teachings on Advaita Vedanta. Today he will be presenting on how art inspires spirituality and teachings of Vedanta. Dr. Railkar, please. Thank you.
Okay, let me begin with the simple prayer. Om Stapakaya cha dharmasya sarva dharma swarupine avatar varisthaya Ramakrishnaya te namah. So with that, salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, let me begin and give you first an introduction to art. Art is all around us in nature as well as in man-made objects and can be experienced in various forms such as paintings, writing, poetry, music, carvings and architecture. Art can point us to the hidden inner genius work of the artist. Art can shake up our conventional thinking, but most important, art is open to all, it's universal. Art can take us to our higher self. And in the next 45 minutes, I want to give you an overview of how art can make us point to the higher self. So we start with the Ramakrishna Mission headquarters in Belur Math, India. This is the Belur Math headquarters of Ramakrishna Mission. At the entrance of the building, you will see an emblem as shown on the right hand side. And this emblem is very important. At the bottom is the actual sketch which came out from an artist. His name is Swami Vivekananda. And so let's look at that. So emblem of Ramakrishna order designed by Swami Vivekananda. This is a very important emblem. At the bottom is the flower which represents Bhakti Yoga, path of devotion. At the back is the sun rising there and removing ignorance, darkness, which is Jnana Yoga. And the waving water aptly representing the motion, the path of action, just like the sea is in action. And then the snake around is concentrating, and that's what the Raja Yoga is. And the swan in the middle, Swami Vivekananda wrote underneath, Tanno Hansa Prachodayata. So the swan in the middle is the Supreme Paramatman. And Swamiji says, may the Paramatman Supreme Self awaken our understanding. And the reason I like this particular emblem is all the tools you need to progress spiritually, they are all embedded into one symbol, and you can quickly get a glance of that. So from that we go to the next artist, Sri Ramakrishna. So on February 11, 1886, Sri Ramakrishna drew this sketch. And it's a very important sketch. On the left hand side you see a head being drawn, and then a peacock is following this head. And as an artist, when I look at the peacock, it's drawn extremely well with the way the shape of the peacock. And on this drawing, Ramakrishna wrote 3 lines. Jai Radhe Premamai, Naren Shikke Dibbe Jokum Gure, Bahire Har Dibbe. This is in Bengali. And it says, victory to Radha, love personified. Naren will teach, Shikke means teach. Bahire means outside, so outside India as well as inside. And as we look back, as we know, Swami Vivekananda has taught the whole world a lot. And so in this particular picture, the head represents Narendra, that is Swami Vivekananda, and the peacock represents the followers. And this is the interpretation which comes from Swami Chetanananda's book. If you read different books, different Swamis have interpreted this differently, but I'm going to stay with this interpretation. So with that we go to Swami Vivekananda's views on music and art. Swami Vivekananda was talking with many devotees in 1898 after returning from the West. And he said that the Western music is very good, but initially he didn't understand it. And later on he realized that if you listen attentively, then you can get the sense of it. As well as he said that you must keep to the science of the music. And similarly he indicated that Same is true with art, that in glancing, if you were to look at a picture or a portrait, you would probably miss the beauty where it lies. So he asked us to focus our eyes, that unless the eye is trained to a greater extent, you will not be able to appreciate the subtle touches and blending and the inner genius work of art. So certainly you need to have a focused and trained eye. So let's look at this picture. This is a picture which of the New Jersey sky taken in 2022 on a day of the Holy Celebration. Interestingly, if I were to paint this picture, people would think that the colors don't look too natural. However, this is the actual picture of the sky. And what Swami Vivekananda said about painting is that in painting you can keep in touch with nature and you can make it as artistic as you want. You can expand your horizons as you want, and there will be no harm in doing that. The result will be good. So if nature shows us such incredible variety, is there oneness behind this variety? That's the question may come to your mind. So let's explore that. So we go all the way back to 200 BC, and there was an Indian mathematician named Pingala. And Pingala came up with the first time the set of binary numbers. He looked at the pronunciation as a soft and a hard pronunciation, came up with Lagu and Ras Dirgha as the binary numbers, which later on became Matra Meru. And fast forward to 1202, Fibonacci, he was asked about rabbit population in his town. And Fibonacci said, let me do some mathematical calculation to predict how many rabbits would be there. And he came up with the Fibonacci sequence of numbers 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21. And the idea of those numbers is that 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 1 is 3, 3 plus 2 is 5, and so on and so forth. And that's the Fibonacci sequence, which is similar to the Matra Meru. Now, why is this sequence so important for spirituality, you may ask? If you look on the right hand side, you see the tree, the shell, or the sunflower or the cactus, similar to the spiral galaxy. Recently, you might have seen the James Webb telescope took the picture of spiral galaxy, as well as the storm. All of them seem to show a spiral. The Fibonacci numbers, when they are stacked up as boxes, shown on the orange boxes, on the left hand side, they end up with a spiral as drawn there, and that same spiral is seen in all of those pictures. Similarly, a tree growth can be explained using Fibonacci numbers. So the question is, yes, one code, one sequence seems to govern a lot of things in nature. So maybe there is oneness in nature and we need to look closely, as Swami Vivekananda said. So let's look at let's observe a sunflower. This is a painting of mine on the left hand side. The picture in the middle is the actual center of a sunflower, and the picture on the right hand side is the Fibonacci number sequence programmed in Microsoft Excel to come up with this graph. When you look at the two pictures, you can see that the nature is exactly following Fibonacci. And interestingly, if you were the sunflower and you were asked to put your seeds, which are the florets at the center of the sunflower, in what order would you like to put in so that maximum sunflowers can be produced out of those seeds? The only optimum option is that option which comes out of Fibonacci sequence. Now the sunflowers know that. So interestingly, when you look at the middle picture, you would see your eyes start seeing two spirals. The blue spiral going clockwise and the red spiral going counterclockwise. The red spirals are 34 and the blue spirals are 21 in a standard sunflower. So interestingly, you look at sunflowers and try to count it, and biologists have done that. You come up with 34 and 21. If you take the ratio of that, that gives you something called as divine ratio. And you can look in the internet and there is a lot of discussion about that as well. So why is this divine ratio so important? This is the Dakshineshwar temple in Calcutta. And the Fibonacci numbers, as I said, if they are stacked up as boxes drawn there, box of size 1, then box of size 2 on the top, then size 3 and 5 and box of size 8 by 8. And if you draw the blue spiral through that, that's the Fibonacci sequence. If I superimpose those boxes on top of the temple, you do see that they line up pretty well. So designers and architects and artists know that, and they use the Fibonacci code and the golden ratio to build the monuments, so that the monuments are more appealing to the eye. And if you look through on the internet, look at Statue of Liberty as well as Eiffel Tower as well as Taj Mahal, and if you look at Fibonacci sequence, their proportion of the towers and the windows and the height to width ratio matches the golden ratio. Before I proceed, one personal note here. My aunt, my mother's older sister, she visited Dakshineshwar temple in the late 70s, and she felt the spirit of goddess Kali manifest through her in that temple. This is a picture at the rightmost corner, and I sketched that picture in her memory. Interestingly, today is October 16th, and it's October 17th in India, and the day on which I sketched that picture is October 17th, coincidentally 31 years ago. So Swami Vivekananda, we go to Swami Vivekananda and his ideas and looking at art and looking at very simple things in life such as drinking water cup. And at the mutt in Nilambar Mukherjee's garden house in 1898, Swamiji said that people have thrown away their metal gati means metal pitchers, away, and they are drinking water from this glass, and which he was not happy about, because he wanted to see that we need to have a combination of art and utility. And this is the cup which Sri Ramakrishna was using to drink water, and this is the glass which Sri Ramakrishna was using. And if you look at Swami Chaitananda's latest book, these pictures are in there. So I have taken these pictures from there. Similarly, Swamiji was he was very much intrigued by the farmers of India, that where he saw the confluence of art, craft and Indian culture. And he said that, don't you know that the art is a part of our religion, and that how greatly we admire a lady who can paint floors and walls on auspicious days with a paste of rice powder. So just looking at these two examples of the drinking water cup as well as looking at the farmers' paintings, Swamiji advises us to remain curious about life's simple things, as well as be careful about our religious practices, and maybe he is guiding us to uncover the hidden truth. So let's explore various art forms, such as art can be learned from music, poetry, dance and various ways, such as all kinds of compositions can make us focus on to the higher self, or a poetry such as Kabir's poetry, the river that flows in me flows in you, and we'll explore more on that, or a Bharatanatyam dancer who is trying to depict Shiva, who is doing a Tandav Nritya. So Shiva is depicting 5 energies: creation, preservation, destruction, illusion and emancipation. So by observing a dancer we can connect with Shiva's energy. As well as Kara Nritya, a dance of hands where Kamakshi Stotram from Adi Shankara has been used. Using hand gestures they can depict the power of Goddess Amba. So various ways one can explore and connect with the higher self. So let's start with the prayer part of it. In 1898 at the Babu Navgopal Ghosh's house in Ramakrishna Nagar, Swami Vivekananda prayed to the marble statue of Ramakrishna, and he composed extempore Om Stapakaya Cha Dharmasya Sarva Dharma Swarupine Avatara Varisthaya Ramakrishnaya Te Namaha, the prayer which I did in the beginning. And it says, I bow down to Ramakrishna who established the religion, embodying in me himself, the reality of all religions, being thus the foremost divine incarnation. And why I like this prayer so much is that in one prayer, Swamiji respected all the religions of the world, reaching to the same universal truth. So this is very important. It's a beautiful construction of the poem. And so let's look at how Ramakrishna's Advaita Vedanta teachings and spiritual teachings have impacted various corners of the world. So from there we go to Belur Math in 2015. 91 people from New Jersey went to Belur Math on a trip, and during that trip I took this photograph. On the right hand side, this is a manuscript in Belur Math. This is a manuscript written by Santa Jnaneshwar from state of Maharashtra, India. I was born there, so this is one connection and I can read that. This is my mother tongue written in Marathi. But Santa Jnaneshwar translated Bhagavad Gita in Marathi, 9,000 verses in the year 1290. And he preached Advaita Vedanta and principles of non-duality. And in the introduction you heard that I am also translating Santa Tukaram Maharaj's Gatha. He wrote 4,000 shlokas in Marathi, and I am translating those also. And him as well as Santa Jnaneshwar started the Bhakti movement in Maharashtra as of that time. But both were Advaita Vedantists like Sri Ramakrishna. So he went into Sanjivani Samadhi, the Samadhi meaning the practice of voluntarily living one's mortal body after entering into deep meditative state. And he did that at the age 21. I have read Jnaneshwari 9,000 verses, incredibly beautiful book. So let's focus on one of the shloka here, and I'll try to read that. Tava karana yancha hi abhavo pari aisa hi pada evo tari hata hachi saravo ze jodi jati. What does that mean? This comes from shloka 13, It comes from Shloka 13 and verse number 286. And it talks about a spiritual teacher. And spiritual teacher is very important in a spiritual journey. And it says, spiritual teacher does not perform any worldly actions, no worldly business. As they only don't want to hurt the wind, they don't want to scratch the sky. They only want to use their hands to bless and pray. So this gives us an idea about the spiritual teacher. So from Calcutta to Maharashtra to come to United States, and Swami Vivekananda had said that Sri Ramakrishna had infinite moods and phases, and thousands of Vivekanandas can spring forth from the gracious glance of his eyes. And Swami Tadatmananda, who was a disciple of Swami Prabhavananda, he was a great artist. And he drew a number of pictures of Sri Ramakrishna, and his spiritual practice was to paint Sri Ramakrishna and his devotees. And Sri Ramakrishna's picture in the middle is where he captured that glance which Sri Ramakrishna, which Swami Vivekananda is talking about. From that from US we go to Czechoslovakia. And Franz was one of the artists who had never seen Sri Ramakrishna. But Sri Ramakrishna came in his dream, and one of the differences is Ramakrishna was keeping his eyes wide open at that time in his dream. So Franz went and talked to Swami Abhedananda, who provided him with 3 pictures of Sri Ramakrishna. And Franz captured the bhav of Sri Ramakrishna, the feelings in the middle picture, that you can see Sri Ramakrishna has this connection to something else. Similarly, the picture of Sarada Devi as portrayed, as painted by Franz, very important portrait. The slide is not making much justice to the painting, but really looking at this painting carefully, one gets the sense of the motherly feeling, universal mother. Those who don't have mother can approach Sri Sarada Devi, and certainly she is the universal mother. From there we go to United States in Wayne, New Jersey. And this is one of my paintings which I did in 1990. And the painting I called Wild Horses. And the reason I called Wild Horses, at that time I was young and then trying to run wild with my career as well as expanding family and all that. But over the years the study of Vedanta has focused this painting onto something else. So as I look down, you can see that when senses are not focused, they run like wild horses. And if things work out the way you want, then you are happy. And if they don't, then you are unhappy. So the senses as wild horses can give you joys and sorrows. But when senses are focused, one can go beyond what happens, what you see at the first glance. And the sloka which comes to mind comes from Katha Upanishad. And in Katha Upanishad, the body has been compared with the chariot and the senses are compared with the horses, which says Indriyani Hayana, and Hayana means horses and Indriyani means senses. So when senses are focused, one can see beyond what appears at the first glance. Let's explore, is that really true that if I look at something, that do I really connect to something else? So we go to the next slide, where picture of the river Ganges I took in 2015. And it's a beautiful river. People are taking bathing in there and they are praying there, as well as I look at this river, I find that this is a very wide river in Calcutta. However, when Swami Vivekananda was traveling on his way from Calcutta to Kasipur in 1897, he also saw the same river. And he got inspired seeing this mighty Ganges, and he sang Gam Gata Ranga Ramaniya Jata Kalapam. So what is that? So I did some search on that. And this comes from Vishwanatha Ashtakam by Adi Shankaracharya. The picture on the extreme right is the Google snapshot of where the river is, and the red line there is the street or the road on which Swamiji was traveling. And that road's picture, Chitpur Road in West Bengal, is also in Swami Chetanananda's book, where I found it. And Gam Gataranga Ramaniya Jata Kalapam is the first line of the Vishwanatha Ashtakam, which says that salutations to Vishwanatha, that is Shiva, whose matted hair forming a beautiful bundle is decorated with streams of river Ganga. So when Swamiji's mind was focused on the river bed, he did not see the water as I saw, but he saw Shiva. So two references come to mind here. One is, if you read, Sage Bhagirath, who did austerities for 1,000 years to get the river Ganges. And that's one reference. And the second reference comes from the Upanishad also, that the river Ganges water is nothing but a liquid form of God. So very interesting. So as Swamiji said, one must train the eye to focus on to beyond. So from that we look at the painting from Belur Math again. Here Sri Ramakrishna is dancing and devotees are looking at Sri Ramakrishna. Swami Vivekananda said that meditation is focusing one's mind on an object and later on the object vanishes. He did not say that the object has to be God. It could be any object. So in this particular case, you see Sri Ramakrishna connected with his higher self. He has entered a state of flow. And I can talk about a little bit about state of flow. That as an artist, when I am painting something, I completely forget the surroundings. I forget this passage of time. And this is something can happen to artists. So similarly in here in the meditative state, Sri Ramakrishna is connected to his higher self. Similarly in the painting here, Nandalal Bose, he used to reflect spiritual ideas through his paintings. And in 1905, he did this painting where he's showing Sri Ramakrishna dancing in the field and his devotees are all enjoying that whole thing. So again, remember, when senses are focused and Sri Ramakrishna is connected to the higher self, one can do the same thing. So different pictures when you travel, when you take photographs, can lead you to look at certain things after some time. This particular picture of birds in Belur Math I took in 2015. The initial look of the picture, I felt that, okay, there's a number of birds beautifully eating seeds and drinking water there. However, careful observation showed me one bird is flying high up, shown in the yellow circle. And that reminded me of my study of Vivek Chudamani, written by Adi Shankaracharya. Now, Adi Shankaracharya, who established Advaita Vedanta in India, when he was very young, he traveled all across India, established 4 mutts, and very famous, his walk across India is called Digvijay Yatra, very famous, and he wrote a lot of books, but Vivek Chudamani is one of his best books. And why this picture reminds me of that is Shloka 375 from Vivek Chudamani says, Vairagya bodho purushasya pakshuvat paksho vijanihi vichakshanam tattvam, where paksho means two wings of the bird. And what are the two wings? Vivek and Vairagya. Vivek is ability to select what is good and what is bad. And Vairagya is dispassion or desirelessness. So spiritual practices with focused senses can lead you to desirelessness and dispassion. So what happens when you are at that stage? We go back to Swami Vivekananda's comments on art. Swami Vivekananda talked to the disciples a lot about Japan, and a lot about Japanese art, interestingly. And he said that paintings, some Japanese paintings are beyond imagination. And he said there you will find assimilation of knowledge which they got from Europeans. So the disciple was asking, should I go to Europe, should I go to Japan? And Swamiji instructed him to go to Japan and take a look at that. So why that is important is I looked at one of the Japanese painting which is on the left hand side where the cranes have been drawn against a dark background. And when I saw that, I recall reading about Sri Ramakrishna getting his first samadhi when he saw the egrets fly across the dark clouds. So certain pictures can remind you as to what you might have read in your spiritual study. So this picture clearly demonstrates that. Similarly, as you know that when you think about focused senses, you are using all the multiple yogas to advance spiritually. People always often ask the question, what about the grace of God? So when I looked at this picture, what it reminded me of, Swamiji said in 1898, he was sitting in Nilambar Mukherjee's garden house with devotees. And he said, Sri Ramakrishna used to say that be like a dry leaf at the mercy of the wind. The wind of His grace is always blowing. What you need is to unfurl your sail. So when I looked at these boats in Ganges in 2015, I thought about where is their sail. And to unfurl your sail means you do japa, meditation, holy company, and all the other things. So definitely looking at the previous slides, you did see Sri Ramakrishna connected to higher self, Swami Vivekananda saying Shiva in the river. So definitely there is more than what you see at the first glance. So let's explore that. So from art point of view, we always talk about as art is foreground and background. If you look at the blue square, in that I drew 3 brush strokes of orange color. Those brush strokes really don't mean anything there in that box. However, the same brush strokes, when I arrange them in the middle, a letter R seems to appear. As I zoom out at the top, you can see a letter R very clearly. So as an artist, I can focus on the white background while painting on the orange brush strokes. I'm not really drawing I'm not even keeping my eye on the orange. As we zoom out, the background enables the eye to see the letters. Same as the letters Ramakrishna. I drew those letters with only the orange color. As I zoom out, you can see the letters clearly. So two learnings from this slide. With the trained senses, we should be able to focus on the background and not what you see as the first glance. But without the contrasting background, that is, if the background was orange, you couldn't see these letters. So without the contrasting white background, orange letters cannot be seen. So remember that. So with that, we go to a very famous artist, M.C. Escher. And as Prithvi said that Tessellation, what is tessellation? So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So Moritz Cornelius Escher was a graphic artist from Netherlands. And he has done tremendous work in doing tessellations, which are nothing but regular divisions of a plane. So you have a plain piece of paper or a plane on which you want to fit in multiple shapes. Can you do that? So he studied that. He was inspired by nature as well as mathematics. and he used both those extremely well. So let's look at the picture on the left hand side, which MC Escher, and MC Escher has done hundreds and hundreds of pictures which are available for you to look on the internet, and you can go visit his museum too. So look at the picture on the left hand side. When you focus on the orange, you see birds flying in a group from right to left. However, if I focus on the beige background, the birds disappear. Now I see fish moving from right to left. So this is tessellation. Tessellation is ability to put together multiple shapes onto a plane without any gaps. There are no gaps there. The picture on the right hand side is something Escher has drawn which are beyond imagination. So remember Swami Vivekananda's comment that there are several pictures which could be beyond imagination. So art can really take us beyond what we can see. So do try to spend some time looking at Escher's pictures. So following MC Escher's teaching, I did some sketches and I'm going to talk about that. So look at the arrows on the left hand side. You see number of arrows. As you focus on the colors, you have a red arrow, yellow arrow, white arrow, blue arrow. But as I take away the colors, all the arrows on the right hand side picture seems to be showing oneness. All arrows look identical. But more importantly, when you focus on the right side picture and focus on the white background, you can see white arrows are focusing to the left.
Wow.
So what MC Escher teaches you is not only look at what you see at the first glance, but also look at the background pointing something else. So remember, if senses are focused on names and forms in the world, you see differences like the red and green arrows. If senses are not focused on names and forms, you see oneness in the universe. So looking deeper, you can also see the background like we saw the white arrows come out of the right side picture. So that was about colors, but what about forms? Because in the world there are so many various forms. So let's think about the post-it note, and from post-it note how can I create various shapes, and MC Escher teaches us. So I take a small semicircular cut in this post-it note and I move it up. Then I take a second cut on the right hand side and move it to the left. And see, I can easily come out of that and make an elephant looking shape and a fish. And then I can paint on those. So the rectangular or the square post-it, the elephant and the fish, they all came from the post-it. So each one of them occupy the same area, which is most important for MC Escher. So let's look at how do they fit in a universe. So think about, we have a rectangular universe and we want to fit these yellow post-its. We can easily fit it without gaps. Similarly the elephants and similarly the fish. So it's possible to fit various shapes in the same space. So in infinite variety of shapes and sizes in the universe, do you think that could fit into something one background or something? Let's explore that. So for that we go to Germany, and in Germany there were two scientists or two mathematicians rather, Listing and Mobius, and they came up with what is called as Mobius strip. Now if you look back at the history of the Mobius strip was there 2000 years ago in several scriptures, and they saw that however mathematically it was not brought to the world. So Mobius was, the name of the strip was given Mobius strip. And Mobius strip is a very simple thing you can do in the house. Look at the paper strip in the middle. So this is just a long strip of paper, and all I did is on that front face of the paper I drew a red line. So you have a front face with a red line indicating the top edge of the strip. At the back of the paper I drew a green line which represents a lower edge of the paper and back face. So there are two faces for a paper. Each paper has two faces, front and a back, right? But in a Mobius strip, when you do one twist, as shown on the picture on the left hand side, the two become one. Because Mobius strip has one quality. It has only one edge and one surface. So the two can become one. Dvaita to Advaita. So I can take my elephant's universe and I take my fish universe and maybe I can put together into one. But you might say, wait, but the world is three-dimensional, not two-dimensional, like I do there. So let's look at that. And in the world there are living beings and all those things. So, Swami, we go back to the source. Seems like all answers lie with Swami Vivekananda and Ramakrishna. So Swami Vivekananda, when he was traveling from Calcutta to Kosipur Garden, in 1897, he saw a railway engine go by and he said, look how majestic it is, it's like a lion. And there was a disciple with him and he said, but isn't it inert? And he said, the disciple then thought about it and he said, no, behind the engine there is intelligence of man. So does it mean it is conscious? And Swamiji said, no, where there is struggle, there is sign of life, there is consciousness. And he said, think about killing of an ant. The ant will struggle to run around. So that's where the consciousness is. So Swamiji, even by looking at this roaring engine, is able to focus on consciousness. This is called as focused senses and having your eye on something at the background. Remember, there are two types of consciousnesses. One is the individual consciousness you have inside you and universal consciousness. Now these pictures here, interestingly, these quotes have come from a book, and I'll talk about it, of Swami Vivekananda. The pictures have come from Swami Chaitananda's book, recent book, and this locomotive is from 1855. Interestingly, in his book, this lion's picture is also there. So with that, we go back to the Mobius strip and think of this concept, that Mobius taught us Dvaita to Advaita, like 2 to 1, front face, back face to only one face. So could I then take the infinite forms of people, animals, flowers and all the universes of fish and elephants and everything, and could I fit that into one infinite dimensional strip of Mobius? Because Mobius is not just one place strip, it can have multiple dimensions. So maybe there is oneness of existence called consciousness Brahman. From that we go to a very famous American artist, Norman Rockwell. In this painting of his, Norman Rockwell was born in New York City. Later on he moved to Stockbridge, Massachusetts. And there he would every Saturday evening post, he would do the covers of that magazine. In 1960 he did this cover. And this cover is very important for us from spirituality. And why? So, on the box on the right hand side, Norman Rockwell, I just put his picture there. He's looking in the mirror and drawing his own portrait. But not only he did that, he actually captured the act of Norman Rockwell drawing his own portrait. And why that is important is, what he has drawn is, he has drawn himself sitting on a stool, looking in the mirror. While looking in the mirror, he drew his picture, his own face. And if you look very closely at this picture, as I said before, any artist's picture, you have to look at it maybe 10 times. Just like you have to read the gospel 10 times. When you look at it, the small square on the left hand side above his head, he had already drawn some of his own portraits before. So this gives us several ideas of spirituality. Think about the sitting individual as individual jiva, the reflection as the dream, the facing the painting as an impression or sanskara on our mind, maybe from this lifetime, maybe last lifetime. And the surroundings he has drawn with the brushes on the floor, all this is his world. Surrounding world is the world of the jiva. Remember, all items which you see there are on paper. Similarly, maybe everything out we see here is in Brahman. Maybe it appears in Brahman. The painting also gives us various clues of various stages here. Maybe waking state, dream state, maybe deep sleep. So let's explore that. So let's spend a little time on this particular slide. Brahman, the oneness of existence. In this existence, a jiva assumes a body identity shown in the center, a person in the blue circle. He thinks this is me, this is who I am. And he lives his life, he has his car, his house, and he goes around. But every once in a while this jiva sleeps. And in his dream, he creates himself, he's enjoying and doing different things. However, he wakes up from his dream, from that yellow arrow, and comes to the waking state. And he does that every morning he does that. Sometimes he crosses the boundary and even shuts off his mind and goes to deep sleep, as shown by the dotted blue circle. And he comes back via the faint blue arrow back to the waking state. And he is able to do this day in, day out. However, he is not able to wake up from the living dream or the waking dream back to Brahman, as shown by the orange arrow. So the question is, if we are Brahman and if we only assume this body identity, then why do I suffer? Because Brahman is existence, consciousness, bliss. So infinite bliss, I am so blissful, my true nature is bliss. So why am I suffering in life? This question can come to your mind. So let's explore that, and for that we go to a book by Ashtavakra Gita, where sage Ashtavakra told King Janaka a lot of things about spirituality. And in that, Swami Chinmayananda has given a projector example, and this is a perfect fit for our talk today, because we go to movies to see arts. We go there all the time and so much art comes out of movies. But just think about a day you went to the movie and there is no film. Maybe they forgot to deliver the film. So top picture, the projector is turned on and on the screen all you see is a white light. That white light is nothing but Brahman, the consciousness. There is nothing happening. As soon as you introduce the film in that white light, action starts to happen on the screen, and that's Jiva, the projected consciousness, and that's how you start experiencing life. So remember, no Jiva, no instruments connected to the world, there is nothing happening, just a white light Brahman. With the film or just with the Jiva connected with the world, there is life. Remember, Brahman doesn't do anything unless you, the Jiva, connect with your senses to the world. One more important thing, what if I switch off the projector light? There is nothing. So if I take away the Brahman, the support of the universe, there is no life, there is nothing. So from that we go to two paintings, two very famous paintings, and the two paintings are about movie theatre. So painting on the left hand side is from an old artistic theatre. Audience is sitting there watching movie, but there is a lady standing in blue on the right hand side, and she is not watching the movie. So this gives us various clues here. The people watching the movie and are experiencing life are jivas. They are ignorant about that fact that they are Brahman, that they are bliss. And the lady in the blue standing there is thinking, she can be thought about as an aspirant. She is thinking, is there something else out there? She is not interested in the movie. Now let's go to the painting on the right hand side. Again, audience is watching the movie, but there is a lady in the hat, wearing a hat in the yellow circle. She is looking at who is watching the act of watching the movie. So interestingly, the lady in the hat can be thought about as a mumukshu. A mumukshu is a person who is not only interested in simple spiritual things, but also thinks about, is there somebody witnessing the whole events happening in my life? So one can think about the projector operator in this particular case, who can see the audience, see the movie, see everybody as the Brahman or the Sakshi. So that brings me to a concept of witness or observer. And Nandalal Bose, again artist from 1905, he drew this picture of Sri Ramakrishna standing on the holy river Ganges near Dakshineshwar, and he's watching the river. So be an observer of your own life. See life's event pass by like a flowing water in the river, instead of getting attached. If you don't get attached and entangled with the events of life, otherwise you will, as I said before, you will experience joy or sorrow. That is, if you get a result which you like, then you will be happy. If you get a result which you did not like, you will be unhappy. But if you remain detached like the bird with Vivek and Vairagya, you can really stay out of the misery of life. So with that, I'm going to talk quickly about the learnings from today. The goal of human life is God realization. With careful observation, art can provide spiritual guidance. Art can turn the mind to something else beyond senses to infinity and can transport us into a state of bliss. Art is a tool for taking the soul from lower visible state to the higher invisible state. Remember, the grace of God is always blowing. All you need to do is unfurl your sail using japa, meditation, holy company. Swami Vivekananda says, apply one or four of the yogas. He has given us all the tools. The Raja Yoga, the path of concentration or meditation. Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion. Karma Yoga, path of action, but certainly non-attachment to the fruits of action. And Jnana Yoga, obviously problem is ignorance. I don't know that I am Brahman, and the solution is knowledge. So remember, we are actually Brahman. We are infinite bliss. And the whole universe is appearance in Brahman. However, Jiva assumes a body and body boundary within Brahman and thinks that he is separate from this Brahman existence, consciousness, bliss, and assumes the I identity. This is mine, this is me, this is Sudhir, this is my life. And due to this feeling of a separate existence, Jiva runs after the world and the worldly objects and gets attached to the world and suffers. So spiritual practice of japa, meditation, holy company can detach Jiva from worldly things and attach to God. Remember, Jiva wakes up each morning from the dream state and has no difficulty realizing that everything I saw in my dream was made out of my mind. It doesn't exist. But he cannot apply the same principle to wake from the waking state to Brahman. While the whole universe appears as oneness, it appears to us as variety because of Maya's presence. Spiritual practice can lift the veil of Maya to wake us up from waking state to our true nature Brahman. And with that, few acknowledgements. And certainly the first book comes to mind is the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Many spiritual teachers had told me that all life's problems and their answers are in Gospel. And certainly I can attest to that whether you read it once, twice, 10 times, every time you read it, you come to know something new which you didn't learn before. And the second book, Talks with Vivekananda, Swami Yogatmananda suggested me to look into this book, and very useful book for preparing for this talk. And my sincere thanks to Swami Yogatmananda for giving me this opportunity to express my views of how art can connect to spirituality. And then Swami Chaitananda's book, I have met him many times, and he has written some extraordinary books. Sri Ramakrishna, Divine Life in Pictures, a very recent book. Then Sri Sarada Devi and her Divine Play, God lived with them and they lived with God. Very important books to know. And countless learnings from numerous lectures I attended and retreats by Swamijis of Ramakrishna order. And these I attended at Vellore Mutt and at Vedanta societies in US, at Vivekananda Vidyapith, Wayne, New Jersey, which was started by Dr. Vandana Jani and Dr. Mahendra Jani. And then Vivekananda Study and Philanthropic Center, Queens, New York, which is run by Prakash Chakravarti, and my association with Prakash enabled me to meet so many Swamis. Swami Yogatmananda, certainly very thankful to him for all the guidance. Swami Sarvapriyananda from New York for his Vedanta Sara class and many other classes which I keep attending. Swami Atmadhyanananda from Washington DC, Swami Tyagananda from Boston, Swami Chaitanananda from St. Louis, Swami Yuktatmananda from New York, Swami Sarvadevananda from California, Swami Girishananda from India, Swami Nikhileshwarananda from Baroda, Swami Ishatmananda from Chicago, Swami Atma Rupananda from Houston, who is now been moved to France, Swami Atma Priyananda from India, as well as Pravrajika Vrajaprana from India, from California, and last but not the least, Dr. Mahendra Jani, whose scriptural classes on Mondays, and he really started me on the study of Vedanta, and very thankful for him. And with that, I'll close my talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Sudhir ji, for a wonderful talk. And as we know, as we have read Sri Ramakrishna's life, he was a great artist himself. You know, he used to make wonderful idols with clays and paintings and everything. And the Motil Babu was a very worldly person, maintaining the estate and everything. And when he saw Sri Ramakrishna in the earlier days making those idols, he was tremendously impressed. So with that, thank you very much, and we have some time for some questions. Yeah.
Okay.
From the web as well as from here. We'll start from the audience here, and then we'll have the webs.
Any questions? Okay.
One question.
The Adi has
Adi has
Adi
a
has a
question.
question.
Give him the microphone.
Sure.
Thank you, Sudhir. Very nice talk. I was just wondering, so it seems like in the world right now, there's all of our energy and enthusiasm is in like the sciences and mathematics, and just being someone who's very deeply involved, do you feel like you see some of that energy transitioning into the arts and humanities at this time?
I'll talk a little bit about that. Interestingly, if you read the news, science where they do particle physics study in the CERN lab in France, where they study the basic atomic particles. Interestingly, the latest research has come out and said that there is amount of matter in the world and antimatter is identical, so both should cancel each other and universe should not exist. So when that conclusion came out, I thought the science and Vedanta kind of matched. And interestingly, they took the statue of Nataraja and put it in the CERN lab because they think that's where the energy is coming out from. So that is where the science and spirituality seems to come back together. I don't know whether I answered your question on that.
Yeah.
Another question, Charlie.
You have questions, Jitendra? No. No question?
If you could just talk a little bit more about the spiritual practice of japa, meditation, holy company. And
So japa is certainly that focusing of the mind. Basically, you need japa, so that's where you are using Raja Yoga type of thing. Meditation is similar, but holy company is something which is your surrounding. Let's say, Ramakrishna and many Swamis give this example, that if you were to work with, say, a goldsmith, and you are continuously exposed to yourself with a goldsmith, you will know the value of gold and you will be able to deal with it. But if I stay continuously with spiritual group of people, it seems the ideas of spirituality, God, and all these concepts of Brahman, consciousness and other things start getting clearer. Because it's true with any science. For example, one of my old spiritual teacher, I had asked him a question about life and death, and he asked me a very interesting question about engineering. And he said, can you explain me this theorem in engineering? And I said, no, I cannot, because you did not go to college and you did not study calculus and you did not study this. And he said, look, you did not study anything about spirituality, but you want to know life and death, the most ultimate question. So he said, if you didn't study this science, how could you understand these questions or answer this question? So from that point of view, like I became engineer, I studied 20 years for engineering, so I understand engineering concepts. If I want to understand those concepts about Brahman, I better be with the spiritual teachers, expose myself and keep studying. So that exposure to the teachers also brings about the mind closer and closer to God.
so what is the one book that you...
So I would say that the question asked is, what is the one book? Really speaking, it's not really one book which would point you to that, but certainly I would say I would start with Karma Yoga. That's a very nice book because this is a path of action, and we continuously do action in the world where duty is important. Remember, when I said that stay out of the world doesn't mean that I can completely give up everything and go to forest and no. So, Karma Yoga means you do your duty. If your duty is to be a teacher, you have to do your teaching. Just like Krishna told Arjuna that you have to do your duty. You are a warrior, you must fight the war. So similarly, whatever your profession is, you must do your duty. But Karma Yoga is a good starting point for that.
I have a question. Yeah, I was just wondering, Karma Yoga, is there a particular version or author that you're referring to?
I think there are many books, but Swami Vivekananda's book on Karma Yoga is very good. But there is 4 yoga books that are also available, and certainly I can talk to you later on, providing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
I had a question that you talked about, in your artistic ventures where you actually enter into a flow.
Correct.
And I'm sure you have been practicing spirituality for a long time and doing meditative practices. Say meditation, you sometimes get into the state where you feel like you are having good meditation. So is there a connection?
Yes, absolutely. Very, very good question. So, for example, when you saw the picture of the horses, I did it in Maine, New Jersey. I had graduated with my PhD, so my mind was completely relaxed. And so, from that point of view, every painting has its own time. Also, the surrounding has to be right. For example, it has to be a nice sunny day, and it has to be, my mind should not be occupied with, 2 o'clock I have to do this and 3 o'clock I have to, then my mind will not get into the flow. If my mind is not into the flow, then the painting doesn't come out to the level as I am expecting it to be. And the same is true with meditation, that if your mind is scattered, you will not be able to meditate. You will think that you are meditating physically, trying to focus on your Ishtadevata or your idol, whichever it could be. It could be Jesus Christ, Buddha, could be Ramakrishna, could be any of that. But if your mind is scattered, then certainly that day's meditation may not get you there. So you will not be in the state of flow then.
But the experience of flow and the experience of good meditation, do you see similar?
I think your experience of flow is similar to meditation. That you forget your surroundings, even if people are calling you and let's eat dinner, have dinner, and you don't have time for that because you are very much focused on to the painting in front of you, or in meditative state, you are focused your mind on that object.
There's a web question here.
There are 2 questions. There are 2 questions. First question, Dr. Vikram Pattarkine.
Yes.
Amazing speech. Thanks, Dr. Sudhir, for enlightening us. Any guidance you could provide on the sadhana one could do in one's life to come to such subtle perception?
So I think if you want guidance from anyone to do sadhana, I would suggest you contact the Swamis of Ramakrishna order, because I am probably not qualified to come out and say what type of sadhana some should do. Because the Swamis can look at you and know yourself very well and suggest a sadhana as per what your makeup is. Because remember, different people have different things. And your Ishtadevata, I may be very much attracted to Ramakrishna, but someone else may feel I am very close to Sharda Devi. And maybe I am close to Krishna, I am close to Shiva, and there is nothing wrong with it. Remember the first prayer, Avatar over Sarvadharma Swarupine, all religions of the world are equal. So it doesn't matter which sadhana you would do. So I would say, Vikram, that the type of sadhana you want to do to get to the higher self is something you can get guidance from some Swami or spiritual teacher, but the teacher has to be found properly. That's why I showed that one slide, the qualities of a spiritual teacher. And many of the Ramakrishna order Swamis can guide you to that.
Second question from Fred Richardson. Can artificial intelligence produce real art?
So artificial intelligence can certainly produce art because MC Escher has shown us that he has used geometry. So artificial intelligence can come up with certain type of art, like abstract art can be definitely brought out from artificial intelligence. But whether something is real or not depends on you. Remember, the world also, we think that it's real. As far as Vedanta is concerned, Vedanta says it's appearance. So truly speaking, it's the eye of the beholder which can determine or answer that question.
That's all. There are few appreciations that I will email you.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sudhir ji. Let's give him a round of applause. He has come from New Jersey. He drove from New Jersey, gave a wonderful talk, and then he will drive back after the soup supper. You will have some time to interact with him. He will stand by the door and then also join you at the soup supper. So we'll have some more opportunity to interact with him. A few usual announcements. We have our regular classes, Tuesdays and Fridays. Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna on Tuesday and stories from Srimad Bhagavatam on Friday, and we have morning and evening meditations. As I said, Swami Jogatmanji will be back tomorrow, and he will give the next Sunday's service, Mother Kali. The Kali Puja, the worship of Mother Kali is the following day, October 24th, but he will give a talk on Mother Kali on next Sunday. So we'll have the closing prayer. After that we'll have the Arati. May the Divine, who is Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Great Spirit of the Native Americans, Ahur Mazda of the Zoroastrians, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the all-loving being manifest himself unto us and grant us abiding understanding and all-consuming divine love. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. We'll have the Arati now, and after that, please join us for soup supper downstairs.
Yeah, I will take it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I will just pass it on.
Oh, you want?
Guru Maharaj Ji ki Jai. Auspicious and blessed, graciousness sublime, all noble ends you give to us, granting us refuge, all seeing glory. O Mother Divine, our love to you. Creation, preservation, dissolution are your powers, eternal. Nature's real basis, nature's essence. O Mother Divine, our love to you. We come seeking refuge from anguish. Be our Savior through your deep concern. All suffering remove, Goddess. O Mother Divine, our love to you. Victory, O Mother Divine, our love to you. Blessed Mother Divine, our love to you. Blessed Mother Divine, our love to you. Blessed Mother Divine, our love to you. Jai Shri Ram Krishna Dev ki Jai. Jai Shri Sharada Devi ki Jai. Jai